Welcome, everyone. Today we're going deep, really deep into the world of Ethiopian business.
Yeah, we're talking news articles, economic reports. We've even got a legal filing that reads like a thriller.
No kidding. We're going from weavers struggling to make ends meet to banks betting big on digital solutions. We've got an entire industry on the verge of collapse.
Oh, and even a family feud, but not just any feud, one with billions of birr on the line.
So yeah, buckle up.
It's a real snapshot of the Ethiopian economy, warts and all.
Let's start with a guy named Asmanu Arba.
Yeah.
He's a traditional weaver in Addis, trying to keep his family's legacy alive. The article we read, it's pretty poignant. It talks about his workspace, practically empty, thread prices going through the roof, and this guy's trying to support a family of 8 on, 1,000 birr a day.
It's rough.
Yeah.
And Asmanu's story, it's not unique. This is the reality for traditional crafts all across Ethiopia.
Yeah, it sounds like they're getting hit from all sides.
Exactly. The birr's devaluation, that means imported materials are way more expensive, and then you've got cheaper imports flooding the market.
So they're getting squeezed.
And even some government projects, while they're meant to help with development, they sometimes end up displacing these artisans.
Yeah, it's tough. The article, it even mentioned that government support, like providing workspaces, it hasn't really solved the core issue.
No, it hasn't. Asaminu and other weavers feel let down. They talk about promised trade relationships that never really materialized.
It's disheartening to hear. But there's also Ermias Thomas.
Right, Ermias.
He's an embroiderer who's finding some success using, of all things, social media.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Ermias shows that adapting, using new tech, it can make a difference. But even he's still dealing with rising costs, and, people's tastes are changing. Not everyone wants traditional crafts anymore.
Right, and I imagine not every artisan has the skills or the money to, really use social media effectively.
Exactly. It's not a magic bullet.
So I'm wondering, are traditional crafts in Ethiopia, are they just fading away?
It's hard to say. It's complicated. You've got some artisans innovating, finding new ways, but overall, yeah, it's worrisome. The policymakers, they need to really think about the effects their economic reforms are having on these vulnerable sectors.
These are cultural treasures. They need to be protected.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about the financial sector.
Sure.
We've got the Cooperative Bank of Oromia, also known as Coop Bank.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting here is they're facing some serious headwinds. Profits are down. Their assets have shrunk.
Right.
But here's the kicker. They're investing, heavily in digital solutions.
Yeah, they are. It's a bold move.
Is this smart? Or are they just digging a deeper hole?
That's the big question. Derby Asfaw, the bank's president, he's confident. He says they're on recovery and that digital expansion is the key.
So they've launched this mobile banking platform, Coupe, and there's Michu, which is for digital lending, and then there's Delix Valley, which is an incubation center for startups.
Sure. It's an all-out tech push.
But, is that enough? They're dealing with security issues that are affecting their physical branches, remittances are slowing down, and let's not forget the overall economic situation.
You're right. Those are real challenges. Coop Bank does have some strengths. They've been successful in attracting deposits, and they have a good reach in rural communities.
Okay.
But they rely heavily on savings accounts.
Which, I guess, aren't that profitable.
Exactly. And some analysts say they've missed out on other lending opportunities.
So it's a gamble, really.
It is. They're betting that this digital focus will bring in new customers, but it's not a sure thing.
And it makes you wonder, can technology by itself fix these deep-rooted economic problems?
Yeah, it's a question worth pondering.
Okay, brace yourselves, because our next stop is the edible oil industry, and it's pretty dire.
Yeah, we're talking about an industry on the brink.
Seriously, in just 3 years, the number of functioning edible oil factories has crashed, from 60 down to just 4.
And over 20 have closed for good. It's a collapse.
It is. The article we read, it talks about factories sitting idle, producers can't get the raw materials they need, and then you have people like Taija Stadane.
Yeah, Taija.
She's a teacher, and she's struggling to afford cooking oil. Prices have gone through the roof.
This is the human cost of these industry problems.
It's real people feeling the pain.
And the causes are, they're complicated. The cost of raw materials, things like soybeans, have skyrocketed. Then you've got cheaper imported oils flooding the market, and on top of that, they introduced VAT on locally produced oil.
So it's a triple whammy.
Pretty much.
The industry, they're calling for government help, higher import duties, tax breaks for local producers. But is that going to be enough?
It's a tough call. The government's caught between a rock and a hard place. They want to protect local industries, but they also have to think about consumers, people like Addis who are already dealing with inflation.
Yeah, it's a tough balancing act.
It is.
It makes you think about the bigger economic picture. You have the government saying things are getting better, inclusive gains, all that. But then you have the reality on the ground.
Yeah, the contrast is stark. The 2024 Global Multidimensional Poverty Index. It paints a grim picture. 86 million people in Ethiopia are classified as, quote, multidimensionally poor.
That's a huge number.
It is. And that means they're lacking basic things like sanitation, clean water, decent housing.
And an article highlighted how rural areas are getting hit the hardest.
Absolutely. And this is where those economic reforms come into play.
Right.
Floating the currency, liberalizing the financial sector, these were meant to boost the economy, but they've also led to higher prices.
Right. And then they removed subsidies,
making things even harder for a lot of people.
So it's like the government's pointing to these economic indicators, but millions of Ethiopians are struggling.
Yeah, the lived experience is very different. And then you add conflict and displacement, especially in the north.
Right.
This is driving poverty even deeper, leaving people reliant on aid.
It's a human tragedy. And it shows that economic progress, it can't just be measured by GDP growth.
No, it can't. It has to be about people's lives.
Okay, ready for a change of pace?
Always.
We're going to a real-life family drama, and it's got billions of birr at stake. This is about the family of Hailu Shal.
Oh, wow. Hailu Shal, he was a major figure.
Right, he was a prominent opposition leader.
And a businessman.
And now his family's locked in this legal battle.
This isn't just some squabble over grandma's china. This is high-stakes stuff.
It is. The whole thing centers around Hailu's eldest son, Samson.
Okay.
He's suing his own mother and siblings.
Oh, wow.
He claims they cheated him out of his inheritance, including a share of the, get this, the Lafta Mall.
That's a landmark property in Addis.
It is. In this case, it gets to the heart of how family and business mix in Ethiopia.
It's fascinating.
Samson's claiming that his siblings diluted his shares in the mall, withheld dividend payments, even used company funds for personal expenses.
Those are serious allegations.
They are. And it makes you wonder about how transparent these family-owned businesses really are. They're a big part of the Ethiopian economy.
They are.
But this case, it's like a warning sign. You need clear rules, ethical practices, even within families. When money's involved, things can get messy fast.
Don't kid it.
So will Samson win? Or will this whole thing just damage his father's legacy?
It's hard to say. But the outcome, it could impact other family businesses and how they handle inheritance and how they govern themselves.
It's a case to watch, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, shifting gears again, let's talk about healthcare. There's been a major development, a landmark law legalizing organ donation and transplantation.
This is a big one. For the first time in Ethiopia, it's legal to donate and receive organs.
Huge step forward, right?
It is.
This new law, the Health Service Administration and Regulation Proclamation, it lays out the whole framework, from consent to how they set up a national transplant database.
It's really comprehensive. You can choose to donate while you're alive, or you can specify it in your will. And even a close relative can make the decision after you're gone.
So it covers all the bases.
It does. And importantly, the law explicitly prohibits selling or gifting organs. It has to be about helping others.
That makes sense, ethically. But practically, how do they make sure everything's done safely and fairly?
Well, the law is very clear. Organs can only be removed after a doctor confirms the donor is biologically dead.
No room for interpretation there.
Exactly. And they've set up this new body, the Ethiopian Blood and Tissue Bank Service.
So they'll be managing the whole process.
Yeah, they'll keep a list of donors, match them with recipients, track all the data, the whole 9 yards.
It's a massive logistical undertaking, but the benefits are huge. People won't have to travel abroad for transplants.
Imagine the cost savings and the lives that could be saved.
It's incredible, but I'm sure there are challenges. What are they facing?
Well, they need the infrastructure, the right hospitals,
Right.
trained professionals. They need to be able to get those organs where they need to go quickly and safely.
And the funding.
Right. The Blood and Tissue Bank needs money to operate. Healthcare workers need special training. And they need to educate the public about organ donation. There might be cultural concerns, misconceptions they need to address.
The article also mentioned concerns from healthcare workers themselves about their own safety.
That's right. They're dealing with needles, potential exposure to diseases. The government's promised full health insurance coverage, but it's not clear how that'll actually work in practice.
It's a good reminder that even with these great reforms, you have to think about the people on the front lines.
Exactly. But overall, this organ donation law, it's a huge step forward for healthcare in Ethiopia.
Absolutely. Speaking of healthcare, let's go back to the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, we left off on a pretty bleak note.
We did. So what's the bottom line here? What's going on with pharmaceuticals in Ethiopia?
The biggest issue is the local manufacturers. They're just not delivering the medicines they're supposed to, even though they get preference in the bidding process.
And these are essential medicines, right? Stuff hospitals need every day.
Right. And their production capacity is just not there. They can't scale up to meet the demand.
Is it a lack of investment?
Partly, it's hard for them to get the financing they need to upgrade their facilities.
Okay.
And then you've got global supply chain problems. Getting raw materials has become incredibly difficult.
So it's like a chain reaction. One problem leads to another.
Exactly. And then on top of that, the ETSS, the Ethiopian Pharmaceutical Supply Service, they're often late with payments.
Which makes it even harder for the manufacturers to operate.
It's a vicious cycle.
So what's the ETSS doing about this?
They know there's a problem. They're talking to banks to help manufacturers get credit, and they're looking at ways to streamline their payment systems.
Okay.
But it goes deeper than that. There are systemic issues.
Like what?
Communication, coordination, it's just not there. The EPSS, the hospitals, the manufacturers, they're not working together effectively.
So it's not just about money.
No, it's about the whole system.
Yep.
And then there's a lack of strategic planning. The government needs to really prioritize this industry.
Invest in it.
Yeah. Fund research, encourage innovation, make it attractive for foreign investment, and of course international funding, which used to cover a lot of medical supplies, that's drying up.
So the pressure's on the government to step up.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this journey, folks.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep digging deeper.
Until next time, take care.